Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's mikeyOPP.com. Thanks!
Hello, this is Mike Oppenheim, and you're listening to Coffin Talk, Exit Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. With me today is an old friend from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Mrs. K. Vanderpark.
Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. So with no further ado, and just for the audience's knowledge, I've known Kay since we were both, I think, 18 or 19 years old, so we go back pretty far. So speaking of which, Kay, how old are you? Where did you grow up? And what generation do you consider yourself belonging to?
Okay, I am 39 years old, and I grew up in Canada and America. So I was born in Canada, in Toronto, and I lived in a few different areas in Ontario before moving down to Philadelphia, where I did my high schooling. And then I moved to Pittsburgh for my undergrad and came back up to Toronto to pursue my doctoral degree.
Awesome. And which you did get, and congratulations. So
Thank you. And I now live in Toronto.
cool. And what generation do you think you belong to?
I guess according to all the definitions I've read, I'm a millennial, but right on the sort of tail beginning of millennial, I guess. But I think from everything I understand about them, I'd probably identify most with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just do that so that our listening audience can kind of get situated for like your sense of identity and then what they're going to assume and think about you. So, okay. So, today we're going to be talking about your philosophy on death and how that affects the way you live. So my very first question I usually ask people is, what do you think happens to you, Kay, when you die?
I think I cease to exist in a material sense. That my sort of essence lives on simply in the memories and hopefully actions of others as they channel whatever energy I sort of gave them while I was in life.
Cool. I really like that. I have not heard that answer yet. Obviously, I'm going to hear a lot of different answers, but it'll be fun to pick at this one and not pick at it in a negative way, but I want to pull all the threads and just see how cogent it is when we're done. So then, does this affect your decisions about moral actions? In other words, if there's no consequences when you die, does that affect your morality here?
I identify myself as a humanist, above and beyond everything. And I think we have an ethical and moral commitment to our fellow humans. And I believe that good works and moral choices and actions do live on beyond you. It's not that those die with you. It's that your legacy is left in the world of the living, that you won't be punished for not doing anything, that you won't be rewarded for doing anything, except perhaps you'd have a longer legacy. But maybe not. But no, for me, I believe in the duty to here and now. And I think to act based on a belief that you will be rewarded or punished in an afterlife is a way of delaying attention to the now in a lot of ways, and projecting too much attention on the later. So I think it can be a stronger guiding light to living a sort of ethical life.
I totally agree. I mean, it's very, like, both intellectually and actually for me, heartfelt, spiritually, like, connected what you said. And my definition of spirituality doesn't mean you have to think there's life beyond this realm, which is kind of what I want to ask you next, which is, have you ever had an experience that made you question or think about a greater life beyond your life, meaning like you were part of something bigger?
I think for me, I think losing a loved one and I think becoming the parent to a loved one are both experiences that would make me feel that I'm connected to more than simply my own existence. in the loved ones that I have lost, I continue to feel their presence affecting me, not in that I think they are a spirit that lingers around, but in picking up a book that I know they loved. They're with you again. There's a presence there, and in thinking about what a decision I want to make, I might think about what one of them would have advised me with, or sort of what they would have done. And so they continue to exist in that way. And I feel connected to something bigger than myself. And then in becoming a parent and thinking about the life that is going to live, beyond my own, I am extending beyond my immediate existence, I think. And I think the same truth applies to friendships that you have and to other relationships that you have in this world, that your own existence does exceed far beyond yourself. I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And I would love to talk to you about being a mother, because it does kind of connect for me. So you have a daughter, and how old is your daughter?
She is 15 and a half months old.
Awesome. And so before you had a daughter, you had opinions, but I'm not even concerned with those. I'm just curious that since you had one, has anything changed for you in your opinions and other such tangentially related questions?
I think it becomes more immediate in how much I want to set an example for my daughter. And I want to not just talk about doing good things and connecting with more people and helping more people, but I want to do them as a way to show her that this is how it is to be in the world, is to try to help those around you. And I want her to grow up, because we've decided that we will not be raising her in religion, because neither my partner nor myself have a religion. We want her to still feel that there are moral parameters, and that that it's important to make ethical and moral choices, and that those should relate to helping those around you. And I think becoming a mother just made that more immediate and more pressing. Suddenly, my solipsism sort of had to necessarily disappear in order to ensure that my daughter is given a broader perspective on the world.
Cool. That's a great question. And, I have a child, and I have another one on the way. And I remember not speeding and not honking at cars when my child was born. I remember this sweeping change in but it wasn't because my morality changed. It was because of the example that you're talking about. So I'm curious, what's something small that you could admit to that you used to do or even still do that is technically not legal, but is not enforceable? So for example, speeding is what my example would be.
Oh, yeah, no, that I still do now.
Or that you did daughter to the birth of your child.
Right. Okay. Certainly speeding would be one of them.
I wanted to ask a specific question. When your daughter's old enough to talk to you, would you use heuristics like shortcuts to explain why they shouldn't do things? Or would you say blatantly, I don't speed because it's the law?
Oh, no. I think heuristics, and I think, I think there's going to be allowing her to learn and make mistakes. And I think we have to laws are made by man. They're not infallible. They're not necessarily permanent either. And to teach somebody to follow them blindly, I think is itself probably one of the major flaws in our world, that people blindly follow. And I think I would like to teach her to think critically about them. And I think in terms of something like speeding, it's not about the law, it's about the safety of others and yourself. And that's what you have to think about. You may be a perfectly fine driver. The road may be empty, but you can't predict someone a mile down the road stepping out in front of you. So you need to be thinking about your actions and how they're going to affect others. And that's why I try to follow the speed limit now. Is I do not want to cause injury to myself or others.
Yeah. So, I mean, because I'm relating to this because I really do feel like this powerful, this idea that you said, the power of now, and that you're a humanist. And so I'm trying to find loopholes in your, what to me is a very secure system, only because I want to see if this would work for like mankind. So my next question would be, what would you do if your daughter at around like 5 or 6, maybe because of like peers at school or something, said, hey, I really want to go to church?
Oh, I would absolutely let her go to church. I plan to teach her about religion, but we don't practice religion. If she would like to explore practicing religion, I'm happy to have her do so. And I would go with her, and we would talk about it, I hope. I mean, especially if she was 5 or 6. I mean, she's not going alone. No, I am all for her exploring different belief systems, and by no means do I plan to impose mine upon her. If she finds comfort through something else, then that's important. I mean, I think that's a huge part of sort of, I mean, of my humanist point is I don't think God or belief in God or a God, some higher divinity, is wrong or bad or anything. I simply think that God is a concept created by man, and we do better to look to man than to God. But if people find comfort, then I think that can be a wonderful thing.
So at any point along your journey so far, and you're still very young, but did you ever on this journey like want or yearn for a God and for like a high moral order that exists beyond Earth? Like, did you ever have moments where you wished that were the case?
Yes, in the sense that I think it would feel very comforting to simply pray to a sentient being above me who controls things and ask for something, whether that be, health or protection or, or luck or whatever blessings it is, or even to confess something, to feel that you can relieve yourself of a burden by simply confessing it to something greater than yourself. I think that would be a great comfort, but I do think it's a slightly delusional one. I don't think it's going to get me very far. I think instead of wishing for something, acting in a way to procure it or produce it is a much more effective strategy. And the same thing with the need to confess to unburden. You can attend therapy, but I think, again, your actions are what are going to ultimately unburden you of something you feel guilty about. So, I mean, I think there is comfort in it, but I don't know that it's comfort that promotes action. And that's where I have a problem, I guess.
Yeah. And that was a great answer. I would actually like almost want to end a podcast on that, but I'm not going to. I have plenty more questions. So I know you very well, and I know your history, and I know you've had some like medical run-ins and some like, close calls, but recently you had a really scary close call. Are you comfortable telling that story briefly?
Yes, I will, I guess, try to be concise. Yeah. Okay. The very concise version is I had a surgery and everything seemed to go well. And my partner was driving us home, which at that time happened to be quite far away. So we were on the highway and I started bleeding immensely from the wound. And what ultimately turned out is that an artery had been cut. And nobody had realized it. And I nearly bled to death on the highway trying to get to a hospital. So it was a very, very scary experience. I absolutely thought I was going to die. The paramedics were fairly surprised that I didn't. So I was very, very lucky that my partner was able to remain calm enough as I bled all over the interior of the car, and get me to the medical facilities that were needed.
And for our listeners, Kay and I are very similar. We both laugh at like things like this. So yeah, like it's very awkward. I'm like laughing while you tell the story, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna think I'm a sociopath. So my question for you is, during that, and I'm not asking this in like a gotcha journalism way. I'm just very curious. Did you at that point pray at all? Like, was there any part of you that was like praying or like seeking outside external help?
No, Absolutely not, actually. And I remember that that's actually a very vivid thing for me because I was raised in religion, and I left it voluntarily as a young adult. And so, no, the fact that I like instinctively turn to sort of praying to a god or a divinity. No, all I could think about was my daughter and how sad I was that I wouldn't be there to see her grow.
Wow. That's, I mean, so heavy and so profound at the same time. And so one of the reasons I brought this up is that we talked shortly after that, and you said something that like really touched me. And you said, you know, ever since that, I'm paraphrasing you, so please correct me, but you said, I want to reach out to some of my really good friends and my family members more often. Like, life is precious. You didn't say life is short. You said life is precious, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you continued on that trajectory? Because it's been, what, like a month and a half now, 2 months since this happened?
It's been, well, actually, since then, it's been almost 6 months now. I have been trying to, absolutely. I have reconnected a little bit more with friends, and who, you know, had not been lost to me. It's not that I've gone back and sort of turned to people who I no longer had any communication with anymore. But I have started trying to rebuild and strengthen some of the relationships that I care the most about. And I'm definitely prioritizing making time for, a phone call, even after I've spent all day on the phone because of work or something like that. I am trying to. Obviously, COVID is making things challenging in the, there's not the opportunity to go see people. And then, the juggle of trying to balance working and childcare does cut into a lot of my energy stores. So I'd say I probably haven't been quite as good at it as I hoped, but it is still absolutely one of the things I am trying to put time into.
Cool. Well, so the interviewer in me has heard you mention the term energy twice now, and I'm getting the idea that I should probably explore your thoughts on energy, because you're definitely using it within the realms of how you defined life and existence. But I'm curious, like, how would you define energy?
How would I define energy? By my absolute lack of it right now. No, no. I think energy is something that radiates out from all of us, and I think at various points people will have more or less or a stronger pulse of it, let's say. And your energy is, in a way, what you have to give to your family, to your friends, to your work, to the world. It's what, and again, at different moments, you'll have more or you'll have less. And I just think it is that, I mean, it's not an aura, but that's how I envision it, I guess. But it is that, I want to use the word energy here. And I realize that in defining energy, that is an incorrect thing to do. But it is that which allows us to act, I guess.
I am putting words in your mouth, but I'm curious if this sinks to you. So would you almost say like energy is like your life force, like you have it while you're alive, and then when you die, that's it, it's gone?
I would say sort of, not quite, because I actually think energy is one of those things that you can give to others in a way. I can energize you, right? If I speak very passionately about something and you decide, wow, that's incredible, I want to pursue that. That's like, I've given you energy, some of my energy, I've energized you to pursue something. And so I believe that is the legacy that lives on of you, is this energy in a way. If you want to say like there is more beyond the materiality of existence, I think it is that, your energy can continue to motivate and compel and enrich other people beyond your sort of life.
I really like that. I think that's a beautiful way to look at the world. So when your daughter was born, did she instantly have energy?
Absolutely. I would say, I mean, and now it's growing and changing, but I mean, her energy at that point was based on a will to survive. And that is,
Well, so do you think the source of energy of Well, so first of all, just to lay out some ground rules, I'm going to use the word consciousness just to mean like a rock doesn't seem to be conscious, but a dog does. Okay, so I'm using it like very, very basically here. So what is fascinating about childbirth and any live birth is that this animal comes into existence with consciousness, which is to me different than like my orange tree grows an orange and I take the orange off the branch. I don't feel consciousness in the orange. So do you have any theories on like the origins of consciousness or what the heck is going on?
Oh God, don't you want to get into discussions of the soul? Aristotle. Do I? I mean, honestly, I do think there is, as you've said, a huge difference between an orange and a baby or even a puppy, and where that difference comes from. I mean, I honestly, like, this is, I probably want to go into science for this, but I don't know the science. I really don't know. I don't actually think I have a theory on that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I did.
No, and it's okay that you don't. And it's just because that to me is kind of dovetails into this whole. So you started out by saying you're a humanist, and you definitely made a case for it. And you said, look, the now matters more. I wish personally that people would look to like the present to be moral, not to like some sort of fictional or even truthful story of existence.
Absolutely. Because even if there is a truthful beyond, I mean, if you look to the now, I guess you'll achieve what you want in the next life, right?
Well, and what's weird too is you made this argument about your legacy and that, and then you actually caught yourself. I heard you catch yourself and you're like, oh, well, actually you could go too far to get a legacy in either direction, not just good. So like, and that immediately made me think of the most famous legacy of our modern era, which is Hitler. Like I would say more than Martin Luther King, more than Gandhi, more than so many positive legacies, the legacy of Hitler might be the strongest energy legacy I can think of based on your worldview.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that is sort of it is a moral. I mean, humanism isn't a moral or immoral position. It's amoral. The positive or negative way that you take it is bound up with how each individual acts. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is one of the unfortunate things, but the freedom, obviously, to make the choices, negative or positive, resides in every individual. So I don't have you are right. I did catch that as I was thinking it out when I said it. And, it's not a great thing. I mean, I think the only hope is I'd rather have a positive legacy than a negative legacy. And obviously the unfortunate thing for something like Hitler is some people do see his legacy as a positive one, which is absolutely terrible and disgusting.
Well, and that's outside of our control, but it is interesting that like he achieved a sense of immortality, at least in your realm of ethics. I shouldn't say ethics because that makes it sound weird. And also I do think what you said, that for me, I always learn something from these interviews. I learn a lot, but what I'm learning from you is actually that I really should be careful with words like good and bad, that the relativity going on is unreal. And even like the times I've scolded my son because he did something bad that society says he can't do. But in my head, I'm like, there's actually nothing wrong with that. I'm just helping you not get yelled at by a teacher in 3 years. Like I'm not really enforcing my own moral paradigm. So on that note, because we are running out of time, I learned many things from you, but that was one of them. Is there anything you learned about yourself today?
Oh, anything that I learned about myself. I mean, I guess I want to think a little bit more about where human consciousness comes from now. But I think I don't have, as a entirely formulated sense of life and death as I maybe sort of walked into this thinking I might have had. But at the same time, I also think that one of the things I learned is how much our experiences in life, so my experience with almost losing my life, my experience in giving birth to another life, do bring into more vivid realization what it is you believe and what matters. And I think like actually hearing you sort of bring those two different experiences in my life sort of into dialogue with one another, that sort of actually made me realize how these events really do continue shaping my worldview.
Well, cool. Thank you so much. I mean, it was just a total pleasure to talk to you. We could go on for hours and hours. We have, and we will again. So, Kay Vanderpark from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, thank you so much for helping us put another nail in the coffin.
Well, thank you so much.
This has been another episode of Coffin Talk, Exit Interviews with the Living. I am Mike Oppenheim, and we'll see you soon. When I hear this song and I'm walking alone.